I'm the co-founder and chief open source officer of a company called Codefresh, and we are the enterprise Argo company. We're the first commercial Argo company.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So we are back with another episode of Cloud Air Talks, and as you can see, we have today here the founder and like everyone's favorite from the Codefresh. If you have heard about Argo, anyone talking about Argo, fighting about the Argo, creating the content around the Argo, this is the guy. So I will not take much time. Thanks for joining today's talk. And if you have any questions, you can ping anytime in the comments below. So yeah, Dan, you can go ahead and introduce yourself, like how you started this journey and what you're doing currently, what is the plans and initiatives you are doing or working on currently.
Yeah, so for those that don't know me, my name is Dan Garfield, and I'm the co-founder and chief open source officer of a company called Codefresh. And we are the enterprise Argo company. We're the first commercial Argo company. We started doing that several years ago. I myself am an Argo maintainer and spend a good chunk of my time working on that project, and primarily on Argo CD, but also Argo rollouts. We've been a little less focused on Argo workflows lately, but still have an interest there as well. And so basically, we've built an enterprise platform on top of Argo. We launched the first version of it, I think 3 years ago, and had a lot of success with that. And so our users are typically people that have used Argo. It kind of goes both ways. Like we have people that are, hey, I've just heard about doing GitOps. I just heard about doing Argo CD to manage my software delivery. So we have those people. And then we also have a lot of people who are like, hey, I've got, 100 instances of Argo CD. I'm trying to figure out how to manage it more effectively. And those are our other kinds of users that come in, are more the power users that have run into some of the scale things that we really help with. So that's kind of, that's the company. We started it about, we launched it about 7 years ago. And we made a big bet very early on that we thought that Kubernetes was going to be the future. And we've been very happy with that bet. That's been a good bet that we made. And we've gone from there, focusing on CI/CD, software automation, and basically just enabling companies to automate more of the software supply chain delivery process.
Yeah, amazing. But what was your initial steps, and before Codefresh, like what you were doing actually? I would like to hear about that also.
So my background, I started off programming as a kid. My older brothers got me into it because they were running bulletin board systems, and that's the precursor to the internet you used to dial directly to people's computers and stuff. And so they were doing that, and it got me interested in how computers could connect to each other and networking, and started programming. And then I've kind of always been doing it. In high school and college, I was always doing some programming projects and some server projects. And I went and studied. I did my Cisco networking, training and all that kind of stuff. And I thought that it was a cool superpower to have, to be able to do this kind of stuff. But I wasn't sure that it would fit for a necessarily career full time, because I really liked writing, I really liked communicating, and so I actually spent some time on the marketing side, being kind of on technical marketing. And so previous to Codefresh, I was head of enterprise marketing for a company called Atlassian, and they make Jira and Bitbucket and Trello now, if you've ever used any of those tools. And as somebody that could write and communicate, but I was also technical, that was kind of my superpower, was that I was also an engineer. And so I've always been doing engineering projects on the side and stuff.
So you were the earliest developer relations person.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah. I think I did. I didn't necessarily think, like, I kind of had two sides, right? So like, oftentimes during the day, and this is previous to Atlassian, I would be working on kind of marketing projects and figuring out how to help companies be successful in their go-to-market. But I always had side business doing engineering consulting work, and so I'd get called, and they'd be like, "Hey, this website's been down for 4 hours. No one can fix it." And I would, jump in and do these. Those are my favorite things, were like doing emergency projects, because it's like everything's broken. Like all you can do is fix it. You know what I mean? And that in some ways is like the pressure is off because anything you pull off is going to be a miracle, and you get better rates because you're solving critical problems for somebody.
Yeah,
So
of course.
yeah, so I did a lot of that, and I was lucky early on in my career that I was at a company where I was able to negotiate 20% time to work on whatever projects I wanted. So those were all engineering projects that I used to. I built a bunch of different software at different companies to do different things, and that gave me a lot of the grounding in software delivery that has really helped me now at Codefresh, where I spend a lot more time communicating about engineering than engineering. Though I still contribute to the Argo project every week. I'm on triage duty this week, so I'm doing all the issue triage.
Yeah.
But yeah, that helped a ton.
Yeah, we saw that. You are quite active around all of the things, and there are a lot of things I want to ask. So thanks for sharing that things, how you started, like you were earliest coder for sure, like you were like coding as a kid. So it is only few people came to this cloud talks, which were like coding as a kid or something. And then you were like with this project, the Codefresh, right? So it is from 7 years. So how big the journey till now? Like it was exciting, it was a roller coaster, and how was it like? Because building the cloud native ecosystem project, and then also the company, and also you can explain like what actually Argo does and what actually Codefresh does. Because a lot of people have still have the doubts, right? I use Codefresh around, I guess, around 2020, 3 years back. I was just checking around how the Codefresh works, and there was a lot of alternate. So I was using GitLab, Codefresh, and stuff. So right, that's how I use. So you can also share with our audience. Like after that, it has grown really well. Like this 2023.
Yeah. So, gosh, where to start? So with Codefresh, Raziel, who's our CEO, found me, and he had this idea for the company and how it was going to work and what he wanted to do. And so I joined and we launched this company, and we were really focused in the very beginning on CI/CD and pipelines. And that's still, I mean, CI/CD, if you think about it, like that encompasses what Argo CD is doing. And so that vision was there from the very beginning. And one of the things that we realized that I think was really important is that containers afforded us the ability to think about the entire software lifecycle in the context of a binary. So like in the old days, maybe you ship a jar file, but oftentimes it's not self-contained. There's a bunch of different components you need to manage. But now I can say, hey, look, I have a container image. This contains my code base, everything that I need to worry about for my application. Maybe I have a Helm chart that's an abstraction of multiple images or things like that. But by thinking about that image first, we were able to then not only optimize the building of those images, but then think about them within their entire lifecycle. So we could optimize and give visibility into what was happening with those things. So something that we do with Argo CD that I think is really interesting is we introduced the concept of a release timeline. So if you've ever used Argo CD, it shows you the current state of what's happening with your application. You can see all the components, but it doesn't necessarily tell you how that's changed over time. And so if you're dealing with like, hey, we had this regression that started, everything is syncing fine, everything's deployed fine, but this regression started at like 10 o'clock this morning, narrowing that down is difficult. It's tricky to figure out what might have caused that. So with Codefresh, we have this release timeline, and so you can say, okay, show me what happened at 10:30. Oh, these are the releases that happened at that time, and these were all of the images that were updated, and those images that were updated, these are the commits that actually, the code that actually changed on those images. And here's the Jira issues that are associated with those changes. And here's all this extra information. So now I can say, oh, at 10:30, this is what changed. I know who worked on it. I know what tickets they were solving. I can see the code they were using. I can issue a rollback right from here, or I can basically point at and blame and understand which commits were involved in causing this issue. So that kind of visibility, what's interesting about it is that for software delivery, it's not necessarily the killer feature to be able to understand why something went wrong. The killer feature is the confidence that you get in deploying, because you know that you're going to be able to track down issues rapidly. So people start deploying more frequently when they think that they can understand more quickly what's going on. So that's kind of where that comes from. And then tying that into, your CI/CD pipelines, that's the other critical component, because CI/CD is what's creating these images, right? You have a pipeline creating your image. That's tied to changes in Git, and then taking it forward in Argo CD. Now I know every place that code is deployed, and I know everywhere it's been, so I can trace it forward and backwards. And that gives me the visibility, the confidence to be able to deploy more frequently, enable onboarding teams more quickly. I mean, there's just a million benefits to software teams when you have that kind of end-to-end traceability. And it's really hard to get otherwise. If you're just using like a Jenkins pipeline, you don't necessarily have ground truth about what's happening in production. Not to knock against Jenkins by any means, but it's just not the intention of that tool.
Yeah, actually. So, like you started this awesome product like Argo CD, right? But yeah, it is focusing on the continuous deployment. So people still doubt like it is just about CD, or it is coming with the CI, it's coming with CD, or like it has the GitOps use cases and all. So would you like to clear that?
Yeah, so we have all those components. So Codefresh has CI/CD pipelines, image and artifact management, Helm boards for managing Helm charts, Helm repositories. So there's a lot of components to this platform. And then our Argo CD offering, obviously tracking our deployments and bringing together all of our instances. So if I have 50 instances or 200 instances, I can view them all in a single dashboard. So I'm not going and logging into different instances. And this is because we heard from developers saying, hey, I don't have a hard time deploying Argo CD. I have a hard time getting the right team to the right instance to look at the right applications. And so that's something that we can do through the visuals. But it also manages Argo workflows and Argo events and Argo rollouts. So you can manage those in a straightforward GitOps fashion using Codefresh. And we found with Argo workflows that it's really effective for teams that are very Kubernetes native and they want to take advantage of a lot of the components of Kubernetes. But it's also, and it's especially effective for people that want to scale. So if you need access to like 100 GPUs in a pipeline, Argo Workflows is really the only game in town that can do that. So that's where it's been really effective. For simple CI/CD tasks where, hey, I just want to check out some code, build an image, oftentimes where Argo Workflows is overkill. So in that case, they use Codefresh's CI/CD engine that now they could use either in Codefresh, but we have a kind of CI/CD engine that's optimized for containers and running builds and things like that. So it's that's easier for a lot of people to use and pick up.
Yeah. So one of the questions which like everyone from the audience would like to hear for sure, which is nothing but if someone has to create the cloud native ecosystem kind of a project from the beginning, as well as they want to build the company like Codefresh, what you will guide the pointers to like notice in the current industry, right? It is 2023. It is not like 7 years back, right? Nowadays, cloud ecosystem is growing like anything. Previously, it was not that thing, right? So, what you would recommend like in current industry?
So I think the very first thing that I would try to do is try to find the first customer, because when you go to build something, you're going to have a lot of assumptions about how it's supposed to work, but those assumptions are just based on your own experience and they're colored by your idea. And oftentimes people fall in love with their own idea, but their own idea, it may or may not actually be effective for people. So if you find your first customer and maybe you can build for them for free and say, hey, we don't need to follow my idea. What we need to do is build something that our end user loves and is giving them what they want. And so you really want to understand what it is that they want, and then just try to build the simplest version of it that they can start getting value out of. And they may not be paying you for that first deal, but the insight you're getting into how to effectively build software, that's huge. Because if you can find a market fit, and lots of times people have ideas for stuff that are nice to have, like, oh, I've got this great idea to build X, and I should say Y now because X is going to be a reference to a company. I've got this like great idea to build Y, and what does it do, and why is it effective, and why is it important? Well, it might have some clever ideas, but they may not be things that people are willing to pay for. They may just be things that are like, oh, that's cool, I wouldn't pay for it. That's neat though. So it needs to be something that they're willing to it's solving some critical problem, and it needs to be so good that people are willing to kind of crawl over barbed wire to get there. And so I think if you haven't found that fit yet, keep focusing on solving, keep drilling down to find the problem that you can solve in the most effective way, and people will beat down your door to get there. And they if they need it, they're going to pay for it, and they're going to be happy to use it. So I guess I would start with finding the customer and then building directly for them.
Got it. And also, like, what do you think on the current tech and current industry? Like, they are talking a lot about like DevOps versus platform engineering. The like industry is coming with the new projects like was eBPF technologies, right? So, where the industry is going, like, what is your take on this?
Well, it's always a means to an end. So focus on the end first. Like WASM or eBPF, these are really cool tools that we have available to us. But they're only really cool insofar as they serve valuable functions. And so a lot of the things that people have been trying to do with service meshes for the last 5 years may actually be better accomplished via an eBPF module. And so it's like, okay, well, if I already was solving a problem, but I can solve it twice as fast using eBPF instead, then great. But building something in one of these cloud native technologies just for the sake of building in a cloud native technology, there's not a reason to do that. You shouldn't do it just because the technology is there. You should do it because it's solving a real problem.
I agree. And what about platform engineering versus DevOps? What is your take on that?
Well, platform engineering, I think, is a little bit marketing-y speak. It's like everybody has been trying to, every company is trying to build a platform to deliver software. Like every company is trying to reinvent, those simple turnkey development platforms. And I think it's a little bit of a distraction sometimes. Like if you're using something like Backstage to tie stuff together, that's really cool. That's good. But that often makes more sense from a management standpoint than it does from an individual standpoint. Does it actually move the needle for a developer sitting on the ground writing code? Or does it feel good as a vanity thing, as leadership, to have this organization in place? So, you just want to make sure it's actually solving the problem. And I think that platform engineering, it uses a lot of DevOps principles, and it's just trying to make things turnkey. So I don't think it's bad per se. It's just, where are you focusing? Where is the biggest bang for your buck within your organization that you could focus on, that you could implement? And I think that lots of times people skip steps. Like most people don't do continuous deployment they don't do continuous deployment where they're just making a commit and it gets deployed. They're not, usually the failure to get to that is actually way back in their CI process, or it's in their approvals process. So it's like, the goal is to get to easy software delivery. So focus on that. Then pick the right tool. If you need to do some platform engineering to get there, then by all means, then do it. But oftentimes, just improving the pipeline process, the testing process, the rollout process, using a canary release or something like that is going to get you farther, because people are going to have the confidence that they need to deploy. So, I think they're all good. All these are good tools to have, good options. Just make sure you're picking, focus your attention on what to give you the biggest bang for your buck.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. So, other than that, like, for like our audience, like they are quite, I have mixed audience, right? That students as well as professionals and some decision makers kind of thing, right? So, like, a lot of people are still confused about getting into the CNCF communities and the cloud ecosystem. They don't know like where to start and how to learn this technology. So what you will what you will like to share with them? Where can they get this technical education, as well as where they can start the open source contribution, because it is tough, right? Doing the first commit in open source, it is various challenges to many of the folks. So would you like to share on the same?
Yeah, sorry. What? Yeah, ask that again. I didn't quite follow it. I'm sorry.
Oh, so I have like mixed audience, right? So some of the folks are still not aware about how to contribute to the cloud native ecosystem and how to get into the CNCF communities, how to do the first open source contribution into those because they use these projects, but stay till they get confused, right? So would you like to share on that?
Yeah. Okay. So for a project like, and I think Argo CD is typical. I mean, I think every project is going to follow a similar pattern. With Argo CD, we have uh, every other week we have these Argo contributor experience meetings where it's maintainers and it's an open forum, and you can come in and you can say, hey, here's the issue I want to work on. You can get advice, join the Slack channel, introduce yourselves, and pick an issue to work on, or say, hey, I'm looking for a good first issue to work on. In Argo CD and in the other Argo projects, we actually mark a lot of issues as this is a good first issue. If you're just coming into this project, you can actually go into the issues and filter by good first issue, and you'll see these are issues that are easier to tackle than other ones, and these are ones I could start on. So that's like definitely a very good kind of first step, introducing yourself and making sure that first, hey, can I run this locally? Can I build it locally? If I can do that, I can kind of figure out the developer workflow for this project. And if it's not clear to you or if it's not well documented, contact the maintainers because they're more than willing to help. We have it pretty well documented now for Argo, but I know that we have several maintainers who just jump into the Slack and say, hey, if you need help getting this running, I'll jump into a Zoom with you and get it up and running with you and make sure that you can start, building stuff. And that's a really great way to help. Documentation always needs help. So maybe you're not the best software engineer. Maybe you can just help us out with some of the documentation and stuff. That's a great place to get started. Making simple changes there. They're typically very easy PRs to deal with. So that helps a lot. And then there's more than that. So like we run ArgoCon. That's a whole committee that puts that project together. And if you want to be involved, you could go join our SIG marketing within Argo to start helping out with it. So we have all these different options to get started. Basically, the best thing you can do is just show up. If you show up, start soaking some of the stuff up, you'll find projects to work on.
Yeah, you're plus one to that.
Yeah.
So thanks for mentioning the ArgoCon, right? So ArgoCon will be happening very recent now, right? In some months, right? So
yeah, it's with Kubecon. So it'll be the day before. This is the week of Kubecon. It'll be one of the co-located events.
Yeah. So one of the questions which I would like to ask from you, like, what was your goal to start the ArgoCon and how it's going today? Are you getting the contributors from the open source, or it is like only the team from Argo maintainers and like maintainers and POCs, right? Right? So are you looking for directly the new people outside from the open source communities or like CNCF communities? So like this audience can come and join you, right? Anytime.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's open for everybody. So ArgoCon is really focused on end users. So we try to highlight talks that are case studies, that are implementation guides, people that are doing interesting projects, leveraging Argo. And it's not just Argo CD, it's Argo workflows, it's Argo events, it's Argo rollouts. So it's anything within the Argo ecosystem. And of course, we'll have a lot of maintainers there, and we'll have some sessions on, contributing to the project and that kind of stuff. And a lot of that happens at KubeCon as well. So there's a lot of kind of contribution focused sessions during KubeCon, and we usually have an Argo session that's focused on contribution there. But no, it's open to the public. When we first started ArgoCon, it was during, no travel time when people weren't traveling still. And so we did the first one virtual, and we had, I think, over 6,000 people participate in the very first one. So it was definitely very well received.
Amazing. Yeah.
And our goal was just, let's start getting the community together. Let's get people swapping best practices, sharing their knowledge. Let's start building those connections so that people are making friends and they're figuring out better ways to do things. And we've continued that tradition in the last 2 years. And now co-locating with KubeCon, there's just such a big overlap with the KubeCon community. So that definitely helps a lot. And people are able to come and get both conferences done in 1 week.
Agree. So thanks for doing that and as well as sharing to our audience. So one of the question which comes a lot to the folks is like, where the CI/CD comes into the DevOps life cycle. Like, means CI/CD is the one of the important part, right? But it's like people get stuck, like when to learn and where to getting started with the CI/CD, because nowadays people are also confused about GitOps, right? So CI/CD where it is and GitOps where it is in the DevOps life cycle. Can you answer that question?
Yeah, so GitOps, I think that we've done a pretty good job on educating people about how that works, but we have a website, it's opengitops.dev, where you can see the GitOps principles. And that was a collaboration of about 100 companies um, and individuals working over the course of about a year to come up with these principles. And the principles are pretty simple. I mean, understanding GitOps is actually very simple. If you understand the principles, you know what needs to be done, and you can measure your software delivery process against this. And we have found that it's very effective. I mean, people that adopt GitOps deploy more frequently, they have less downtime, they have fewer regressions. So it is very effective in that way. So with GitOps versus DevOps, I mean, DevOps is this larger kind of, I think of it like this is the study of software delivery. That's what DevOps is. And so there's always going to be new principles, new guidelines, and things that we can learn from it. GitOps is a specific implementation of DevOps principles that focuses entirely on how you manage the state of running systems. So they're definitely closely related, but I think GitOps is a specific implementation and subset of DevOps as kind of a field of study. And then within DevOps, you also have CI/CD, pipelines. You have security practices. You have all these additional things as well that are all tied into GitOps, but they're all kind of part of one big story.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that and getting the putting light on the audience, right? Thanks for that. So moving forward, I guess we are good with the different questions. Like we have asked everything which you would like to consider. Do you have anything which you would like to share to the audience? I mean,
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, if you're new to this space, especially, or even if you're well practiced, Codefresh does offer a GitOps certification, and it's at learning.codefresh.io. And this certification is not only the most popular, it is also the fastest growing GitOps certification on the planet. And it has labs, so you can run it all in your browser, and it'll bootstrap Kubernetes clusters for you, and you can learn how to deploy Argo CD. And it goes through the best practices of how to organize your repositories, how to set up the deployment patterns, how to make use of sync hooks and sync windows. And we have two levels, fundamentals and GitOps at scale. And they focus entirely on open source software and Argo CD and Argo rollouts. So do progressive delivery. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you haven't done it, learning.codefresh.io.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I hope audience will go and learn about the things. So I would definitely recommend going and learning about the thing, because previously also I have shared them with the resources of the service meshes and Cilium and as well as Kubernetes, which are the right thing to go for the certification process, which are freely available, right? So same for the Rancher and stuff, right? So yeah, go ahead and do the certification. It is free of cost, and I have seen a lot of people sharing their certification on the LinkedIn. So yeah, definitely. Thanks for joining today, Dan. And I really love to talk a lot with you at many times. So yeah, we have asked various things. So if to the audience, if you like today's talk, if you gain some insights from today's talk, definitely consider connecting with the Dan, as well as checking out the Codefresh as well as Argo project. It is definitely one of the things you should consider. If you have any doubts or something, you can comment down in between. So thanks for joining today. Let's thank again for the next Cloud Podcast.